Hello. So I haven't done a rundown of any, of the cars that I own really, other than some brief stuff in the other videos. But I figured I did get some questions a while back about this car when I did the black car, and I never done videos on it, and obviously I also own this. So I thought I would do a quick video about how I got this car, what's in it, just kind of give a little story of it. So this is a '98 Mitsubishi Eclipse. It is a GSX automatic transmission. It's got about 130,000 miles on it right now. It's not in too bad a shape. It does have some blemishes because mostly original paint. The bumper here is starting to crack a little bit. You can see there. Clear coats, obviously getting old. The wing is faded and needs repainted. It's got dings and scratches and stuff, but overall solid. There's no real rust anywhere on the car. Just average surface rust. It's since I don't drive it in the winter, it stays pretty clean. I only start it in the winter. The engine is kind of a story in itself. When I bought the car, it was completely stock with just downpipe exhaust. Well, I guess not completely stock. The block was stock except for valve springs and retainers and rods and pistons. But stock injectors, stock intake manifold, stock intercooler piping, and it had ECM link, but nothing done. Stock boost. Everything was still on the car. It did have an engine intake, I believe, when I got it. I'm trying to remember. Did it? Yeah, it did. I don't remember what I did with it. I think I sold it. But anyways, when that engine was built, we had found out that at the shootout in 2012, I believe, that the stub shaft on the back of the oil pump was not torqued properly. It was making and I noticed it when I bought it, but I thought it was just maybe the AC compressor clutch or something, on the pulley side, because it sounded like it was coming from the pulley side. So I'm like, okay, this isn't a big deal. It's just an accessory. It made kind of like a supercharger noise, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then at the shootout, it kind of started getting a little bit louder, and I'm like, I really don't know what that is. And finally, on the way home from the shootout, I started hearing like a sucking noise, and I lost all oil pressure. And at this point, I was really confused because I was like, what? I don't understand what could even be wrong with this car. Without it just locking up, how is it not having oil pressure? Well, we got it home and got it apart, and I'll put some pictures up here. We found that the stub shaft had completely detached from the gear and was just sitting in the bottom of the oil pan, like you'll see right here. And so the car was just essentially pumping all of its oil right out of the back of where that gear hole was, and it was starting to suck air. And that was the noise I was hearing. So it destroyed pretty much everything in that engine. I don't know how there wasn't more damage. The head was trashed, the cams were trashed. The pistons were okay. There was a little ding in one of them where the stub shaft flew up and hit it, and I had a bent rod. I believe a bent rod and one that was a little bit too damaged, physically, that we didn't want to use. But block was junk. It had a little piece broken off of it from where the shaft hit it. Ended up pitching that engine, and we built this, which is 2.4 liter bottom end 7-bolt revised block out of a convertible, and the top end is a 7-bolt 1G head with a JDM Cyclone intake manifold. And the manifold actually is actuated fully by the fuel pressure solenoid, and it has a vacuum canister, and it works at 4,000 RPM, which is, from what I looked up, what the JDM Galant does. I think there's some potential had to be to tune that to be a little better, but I gotta work with the dyno, to get that, figure that out, because it's going to take a little bit of testing. It'd be something that's kind of hard to test to the track, I would think. It has Weisico pistons that I actually found a really good deal on tuners for 3 of them for $150. And I believe they came with yes, they did come with 3 rods as well, 3 regular Eagle H-beams. And since they were the same part number and everything of what I already had, I had 2 good Eagle H-beams out of this, so I had a full set of rods. All I had to do was buy 1 piston and then all the rings and hardware, and I had a full rotating assembly basically for, $350 through $400 or something. It was a really good deal. Had the block check locally, did not need board. It is a stock 4 at 2.4, 86.5 millimeter bore. It's very hard to find head gaskets for that size. I would not recommend anybody do that. Just bore it to 87. When you get it, you'll have better wall clearance. You'll be able to use more common head gaskets. I'm actually using a Cometic MLS single overhead cam head gasket, which works fine. You do have to plug a couple drains in the block with some freeze plugs, but it's not too big of a deal. Have the cast aluminum intake. This is a FP exhaust manifold. The exhaust is basically what was on the car, but has been fixed. The catback was all steel and nasty, and we basically threw it away. And I put the exhaust off of another car that I had, which I'll make a video on, that caught on fire and burned down. FIC injectors. These are Chrysler 2.6 liter ignition coils with a Dynatech ignition box, which I'm not running for an ignition upgrade. It's because the two-step in the ECU pulls fuel to operate rather than ignition, and it kills your torque on the converter. So since it's an automatic, got the Dynatech, and that's set up off of a switch in the cabin. See if we can get a shot of the intercooler. I got this intercooler for free. Yeah, you can see it down there. It's a Punishment Racing 1G intercooler that is upside down and has been modified. I'm actually going to modify it a little bit more so it sits lower in the bumper, but haven't had time to do that yet. We just welded a new outlet on this side, plugged it, and then we're using the stock outlet over there, which is why it's so high. It points right back through the core support, and we just, threw together some piping to connect it up. It's got a 1G NA throttle body. Got, old power steering, like custom power steering reservoir using it as a coolant overflow. Not necessarily NHRA legal. It's probably too small, but nobody said anything. And eBay catch can that has vacuum running off the intake. I have a drain pointing straight down to a little pan so I can drain it right out. I do have to clean up some of this wiring because I had a wiring issue at the track a year ago and I haven't fixed it since then. I just reconnected everything to the battery. I have a Audi vacuum pump that runs off of the switch in the cabin that also runs a two-step, so it helps me keep brakes under boost. Boost control is a max solenoid wired 3-port. The turbo, let's see if we can get a better shot of that. The turbo is a FP green, the newer style, with an external wastegate. I got a really good deal on an old Tile F35. Whoops, got lens cap there. Tile F35 on a recirculated housing, jammed down there inside of the stock fan. It works very well. The only thing you have to keep in mind with something like that is those are very uncommon wastegates, so it can only run one spring. You have very low selection of parts, so you got to kind of be careful. If you break something, you may not be able to get replacement parts. I did find a standard seat for it that did work on eBay, and that's all I put in it. The diaphragm, what got a little hot in one spot, was still good, not crumbling, looked okay. It's all right. Tires are Michelin Pilot Super Sports 235/17. I've only done the one drag day with them, and so far they've been okay. I did an autocross and they're good, but one thing I would say is they need to get some heat into them. They're very hard when they're cold. Once you get a little heat in them, they're all right. That door handle I put too much clear coat on it and it shrank. It's going to need to be redone. The interior is actually pretty nice in this car. The only real damage is that little spot right there for my wheelchair, but that's just superficial. The seats have no cracks in them, the dash is in good shape, no cracks. It's the two-tone color, kind of rare, unless you put it together yourself. Obviously, common problem there, but the Talon one is actually nicer, so I could go swap it and just plasti dip that again if I wanted. I have new deck lid decals that I got from somebody on Facebook that they make. They are actually printed properly like the stock ones are. Stock center tail with these aftermarket headlights that I don't like up close, but far away they look good. So I haven't decided if I'm going to keep those or not, although it's been like 10 years, so you'd think I would have decided by now. This door handle needs painted. Broke in the winter when I had to drive it in the winter one year, so it just got replaced real quick. It has this fugly white stickers on the HVAC stuff, so that's going to get, you know, undone. The AC currently all intact, but needs to be recharged. I have the stock floor mats, which is kind of rare. I don't know many people that have those, that, you know, are still in one piece or not gross. I just got a cushion on there for you know, medical reasons, because me sitting up a long term on, you know, a seat like that isn't very good. The throttle here is a twist throttle. So let me see, do we got capability to get light on this guy? Let's see. Light. That's a little better. I'll have to see how it comes out in post. So I got a twist throttle that actually is just a ATV twist throttle that's backwards. So, you know, you just twist it for throttle. And I need to reduce the throw of it. It's way too far to twist. It's on a pivot welded under the steering column, and you just push down for brake. It works pretty well. The pivot could use some bushings or something. It's a little bit loose, but it's not bad. It moves fine. Just could be a little tighter. Factory sunroof. I need to fix the frame, and the cover is present, which is pretty uncommon in these cars also, but I need to re-glue the clean the headliner and re-adhere it to the second piece, because it got really wet one day and came off. The actual glass on the headliner or the sunroof needs to be re-adhered to the frame, because it's pulling up in a couple spots. I was probably just going to delete the sunroof on the Talon and take that one because it's in better shape. And I have the, you know, windshield adhesive and stuff to glue this one. Transmission has a Kegley front 5-plate front clutch, translab shift kit with the hard springs, and the Kegley valve body mods that he went over at the shootout the one year. I don't know how many people were there for that, you know. But yeah, it's putting a restrictor to reduce the flare between 1 and 2, I believe. Brakes are stock. I am looking to move to just all organic pads because the drag strip, the ceramics need to be hot to grab, and I keep blowing through the brakes at the line and having trouble moving the car around staging, so it doesn't work too well. On speed density, I forgot about that earlier. Fuel is a hard aluminum -6 from the tank with the Walbro 450 in there, and the return is the stock feed with adapters. I have a Fuel Lab billet filter underneath the battery because I couldn't get the line to run where the stock line runs. Like, it's just, you would have to drop the cross member to get a line in one piece bent that way. And since I ran hardline, you know, you can't just jam it up there and kind of noodle it in. I wanted something I didn't have to worry about replacing. And I do have this light. I have a spare on that bumper over there. The clip broke on the way from the track last week, and it sat and banged against the tire for a while, so the one that was in it is bad. I got the other one. I can just throw it right in. Best pass in this car, it's an 1178 with the wastegate line blowing off on the lower about 3/4 track. So that was letting off, you know, when it started going lean. I feel like the car has an 1150 in it if I can just get a good launch and a good, you know, mile per hour in one pass. It's done as good as 159.60, but the 1178 pass was like a 178 or something. So I think if I do that and then I can, you know, get a good, you know, 116, 118 mile an hour trap speed, I can have an 1150. Rest of the drivetrain is stock transfer case, stock drive shaft. All the brakes are stock. Looking to get some more body work done at some point, you know, make it a little bit nicer. I don't want to put a cage or anything in this car, so I don't want it to run, you know, much faster than 1150. Hood, and then I forgot to mention, is a carbon fiber, you know, top layer hood. It's all dull because it hasn't been clear coated, needs clear coated. At some point I'll do that. And I have the squirters, I just haven't drilled them, and I've had them for 5 years. But yeah, that's the important stuff on this car. Anybody wants to know anything else, let me know if you have any questions, or, you know, feel free to come ask me at the track if you see me. I try to go out as much as I can. Anywhere around, you know, Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan, Indiana area. Well, peace out.